Hey, it's Sam. On Wednesday through Saturday this week of March 17th, we're going to have some pretty intense astrological weather, some pretty intense configurations, because the moon is going to enter Libra, where we currently have Saturn, Mars, and the North Node, Rahu, going retrograde. All three of them are retrograde. And, you know, Mars and Saturn have been both in Libra since early March when Mars entered. And of course, Rahu and Saturn have been in Libra since January 2013. So there's been a lot of Libra pressure for the last year or more since Saturn and Rahu both entered Libra. And Mars, since early March, has also ramped up the intensity around relationships and relating and being not only accountable for our own aggression in relationships and whatnot, but also noticing how much we may compromise too much or give up too much of our own individuality in order to please another. This whole kind of axis is really up for us right now. And it's not just in personal romance, it's also in world affairs. We see it certainly with the Crimea situation, which happened immediately as Mars was moving into Libra. That happened, of course, or that's actually right when Mars went retrograde, when Mars went retrograde and Saturn went retrograde right after, we saw the reversing of the Crimea situation, which, in case you don't know, 60 years almost to the day since Nikita Khrushchev gave the Crimea to the Ukrainians, the Russians took it back. So that's pretty telling, indicator of retrograde and this area of the world and the karma of something that's retrograde returning. So, and it really shows a lot of the external and internal battles that are going on, both on a communal level, like with our place in the community and in the world, within our own sort of kingdom or sphere, as well as on a more personal level where our personal desires are on the line. For instance, if you were to compare it with the Ukrainian situation, like Russia would be like an individual, Ukraine would be another individual, and then the mutual desire would be the Crimea. And then you can also look on a larger scale, you would have Russia and the international community as sort of on a larger scale, rather than just being the relationship, the one-on-one relationship of Russia with Ukraine and the mutual desire is Crimea. Then you also have Russia and its relationship with the world. Just like there's you and your partner and a mutual desire, and then there's you and your standing in the world and how that's affected, and how much to compromise, how much to assert within a larger framework, either socially or personally. These are all big themes that are up for us, and we can see, in the world, a lot of issues that are coming together around this. A lot of things in the news. Of course, one of the big things that have dominated the news lately was the jet crash. We don't know where it crashed, but the lost jet in the east. And we're also seeing the relationship of these different countries with each other and trying to work those things out. So it's definitely heavy, because anytime you get three what are called malefics, which Saturn, Rahu, and Mars are malefics, not that they're bad, but they give us the power to do things that are harsh and things that are difficult and what you might call unpleasant. We need energy and courage and determination to put forth that kind of effort, and Saturn and Mars are those planets. When you get them in the same sign or house, it's said that it destroys the house. It can destroy the benefit that you might want to get, like the thing that you want to grow, because it's really an energy of destruction, of destroying what you don't want, for instance. So this is a time with Saturn, Mars, Rahu in Libra to really destroy the things about your relating that you don't want. Rather than trying to grow new stuff around the Libra principle, it's a good time to destroy the things you don't want. And really much of that is internal, if not all of it. This is why the great thing about these retrograde malefics in Libra is retrograde tends to back up on itself, and it is reflective. It goes internally in you. Mars and Saturn are closer to the Earth. You can look at it astronomically. Everything has an astronomical correlation. When planets are retrograde, they're closer to the Earth, which means they're closer to your body, consciousness, experience in the moment. The Earth is your experience in the moment, which is often, which is delineated by the ascendant, but it's literally your experience in the moment. And we're not often in the moment. We're off in our head somewhere. So the retrograde planet brings its nature and its power into your experience in the moment in a reflective way. And what we tend to do naturally is, when we don't get something, let's just use the same Libra principle, we don't get what we want from our partner, we get mad at them. Well, I did this, you did, and it's all external, it's projected, it's onto them. When really, that's just a manifestation of what's internal. So all these internal planets are these planets reflecting in the Libra, in the sign of Libra, especially Mars, which is about discipline, courage to face ourselves and face our own weakness, not project it onto others and say, you're the thing making me weak. Instead we say, I'm making me weak because I don't have enough self-mastery, self-discipline. Or Saturn, which is, you're the thing that's taking me away from my long-term goal. Or I would have done this, but I had this obstacle or this abuse or this thing from the past. Here's the reason why I can't accomplish something. And again, these excuses that we hang on to forever that lead to bitterness later in life, reflecting on that and owning up and being mature about the cycle of time and life unfolding with maturity rather than in childishness is what Saturn is about. So these are big themes right now, especially around the Libra principle, as I said. This week, Wednesday, Thursday, first part of Wednesday, and then into, and then all of Wednesday, Thursday, and into Friday, the moon goes into Libra, and it's going to join that Saturn, Mars, Rahu in Libra. And then Friday and into Saturday, Sunday, the moon goes into Scorpio, where it's in its sign of debilitation, because Scorpio is the sign of that emotional restlessness that comes from deep involvements and entanglements with others. Others are related to Libra. That's what others, and again, others on several levels, but primarily others who we have mutual desires with. Adults that we want to fulfill desires with. Not our children, not our students, not our teachers, not our parents. Others where we have mutual desires that we want to fulfill with them. And again, the reason it's often said relationships is because that's the culmination of that energy. But if you're not in a relationship, there's still others that you have mutual desires that you want to fulfill. For instance, business partners. Very, very big Libra thing. That's why our ability to deal with people is directly going to benefit our business dealings. And so those deep entanglements are Libra, like the active dynamic, and then the stress and insecurity and fear and vulnerability and the lack of control, big Scorpio keyword, big Scorpio concept, is what Scorpio is about. Each sign leads to the next. Needing to be engaged with others, our desire to connect with others is what drives the Libra principle, and then the residue of that, what comes to us as a result of doing that, is Scorpio. We realize we have no control over them. They're going to die. We're very vulnerable. Once we get our desires on the line and we get this deep, intimate contact with someone where it's like, okay, you and I are going to try to do something, it's like, oh God, now what? Now I got to deal with this. So that's why Scorpio is where the moon is debilitated, because it's where we become aware of this vulnerability. And the big thing with Scorpio is to stop trying to control our fears. It's fixed water, which is about going deeper into our feelings and emotions actively and with courage. rather than trying to control and stabilize the emotions by manipulating others or trying to stabilize and situations by controlling others or by manipulating them, which is the problem with Scorpio, is because we're aware that we have no real emotional control. We try to control a situation, which often means a person. Again, it comes right after Libra. And that comes back to get us, because that's going to bite us on the tail. Even if we get the result we want, if we've gotten it by manipulation and control, it's only going to last so long before whoever we're manipulating or controlling is going to go, you know what? Sorry, but that's enough. So we all do this. We learn at a very young age how to manipulate grown-ups to get what we want and all like this. But again, the evolved Scorpio principle is to not try to, assuage the vulnerability by manipulation and control, because it's a short-lived benefit, and rather sink into that insecurity, that vulnerability that flows through the heart. And that's the source of all love and wisdom, and that's the greatness of Scorpio, is the emotional courage to actually sink into that. And that's going to be big over the weekend. On Saturday and Sunday, the moon goes into Scorpio. So a big week, a big intense week. I think the news is going to be pretty intense this week. I have a feeling that there'll be some major breakthroughs around that airplane crash. Like maybe they'll find something that shows the end of that. I think we might see some major escalation of something, some kind of rhetoric or some kind of sanctions or some kind of major thing around the Russian Crimea situation. And let's all pray for the best result, because there's a lot of volcanic situations. And we also may see some other type events that we can't predict right now around other hotbed spots in the world, if not even like maybe natural disaster or something like that. It's pretty intense time, and with the moon hitting that, the moon is our collective consciousness, and so Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, moon joined Mars, Saturn, Rahu in Libra. Definitely big for your personal entanglements and also your relationship with the world as a result. And then over the weekend, Saturday, Sunday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, late Friday into Saturday, Sunday, the moon in Scorpio is where we need to face our, fears and insecurities and lack of control around others. So I hope you're doing well in these intense times, and have a good week.